Okay, you're live. Great. Hi there. I'm going to try to keep up with the commitment that I have made, meaning that I'm going to try to post at least one video every week here on YouTube. I know a lot of things have been busy for me because this season has is very high for me as far as work. When you're dealing with emotional issues, dealing with what we're all facing around the globe, which is the pandemic of COVID-19. It leads to a lot of emotional issues that arise, dealing with isolation, dealing with being in the proximity of people that we love and people that sometimes we don't love. So my job keeps me very busy. But like I said, I'm going to try to keep my commitment because I'm understanding that love it requires dedication and discipline. So here we go. The topic that I'm going to talk about is basically from something that occurred to me today, dealing with one of my clients. I actually had permission to talk to them to talk about the issues. I'm not going to say any names or anything like that, and just express the the dialogue that went on and my reflection on it. Okay, so I talked to my client, and this client does have a mental illness. It's more emotional. So we're talking, and my client is faced with someone telling them, a loved one, a very close loved one, to tell them that they hate them. And they were very, very much upset, as most people would, including myself. Um, and it almost made them retract back from the progress that we made previously before. One of their issues was dealing with insecurity, not feeling loved enough, not feeling good enough. The self esteem was very, very low. She was very much put down as a kid, was attacked emotionally, physically, spiritually. Grew up in a rather not so friendly environment. Um, Grew up in multiple environments, and so when this happened today, um, it kind of made her retract and go back to feeling like she was insecure and she felt as if she wasn't worthy enough. Um, so for me, it was very, very difficult because I've been in this dynamic with this client for almost 2 years. And I've seen the progress, and as well as noticing that my client noticed the progress that we've made dealing with issues of insecurity, of abandonment issues, things like that. So when like I said, she got this. It took a lot for me too, because I understand it. She was very distraught, and she started retracting back and saying, well, maybe I shouldn't, you know, uh, maybe I'm not worthy of loving, of being loved, and not, I just had to do something bad because I was in this so on the right track, but I'm always failing, and I had to tell her and remind her that we are not in control over how people react to us, but we are in control of how we react to the situations that surround us. Remind you that I didn't say how you react to the person. It's how you react to the situation that surrounds you. You know, we are given on this earth the opportunity of free will. Because we live in the Western Hemisphere, we have freedom of speech, meaning that we are able to say mostly what we feel, as long as it does not harm an individual. Now, in this case, it did. Now, we are legally able to. Doesn't mean that we aren't able to. Period. In most countries, in most other regions, we some people are not. And even some of those aren't able to say what they want. But since I live in the Western Hemisphere, we do. Um, so we come across a lot of people who are not so kind. Everyone doesn't govern themselves the same way. What you might think is a automatic given as to how well you treat someone, it might not be for other people. And we can see that because of how um, everyone reacts to certain situations differently. So I just reminded her that, and myself as well. um, and also, sorry about that. I'm like really, really cramped up. Also, we are not in control of others' thoughts. What they're thinking about you may not be, it's only their thought and their opinion, their perspective. It's just like a belly button. Everyone has one. Well, most people have one, or a body. Most people have one. Everyone has one. But how we govern it is different, So like I told her, the best thing you can do is to find out what you believe in yourself. Whether someone is complimenting you or not. Do you believe that you're worthy enough? And if you don't, maybe to find out, why do you believe that? And is it something that from an issue that made you believe that because of one thing that you done? You're not defined by what you do. You're not defined by what you do and the mistakes you made. You're not defined by your mistakes. You're not defined by your failures. You're not even defined by your triumphs. You're not defined by that. You are a whole individual worthy of loving, of being of love and being loved, no matter what you've done in the past, whether you've committed a crime or not. You are worthy of being loved and respected. And when you don't believe that for yourself, it makes room for hate and envy and all negative vibes and everything to come and penetrate your circle. And you have to be very, very careful of that, because when you have that opening, you're susceptible to the opinions and the views of others rather than knowing yourself and knowing your self-worth. So eventually we got off the phone, of course, because the conversation had to end. Eventually it did end on a positive note. So I'm going to say great for that. And of course, you have to open up the door just in case if something else happened and all that. So when I got off the phone, it made me think about the issues that I dealt with having someone that was really close to me not liking my views or my viewpoints, or saying something very, very evil, such as "I hate you." I've had some people tell me that. Was it good? Was it the best feeling in the world? For the most part, no. So I'm gonna be honest. Two of them, it actually was, because I knew who I was at that time. When that occurred, so I knew what it was about. It was all about control. And that's one of the main keys that you got to understand with this. If you guys haven't looked at my video dealing with emotional manipulation, please look at that before you look at this one, because this is a prime example of it. But if you don't have the basis of it, then you're not going to really understand this video. Okay. Yeah. When you're dealing with toxic people and people who are not sure of themselves, sometimes they will go and attack you. If they don't like or someone who doesn't like your views, you're not doing the things that they expect you to do. Because it's all dealing with control. When you don't think someone is lovable enough, then you think then it leaves the door for abuse. It leaves the door for abuse and humiliation and things like that. But like I said, you cannot control what people say. The only thing that you can do is be the best person that you can be, and have a good outlook and a reflection of yourself, and to understand that you are worthy of love. I don't give a care if you killed someone down the street. I don't care. Now, is that nice to kill someone down the street? Is that integral? Is that something that I condone? No, not at all. However, I believe that you are just a human as well as that other person, and you are deserving. You are uh, someone's daughter. You are someone's son. You are someone's grandchild. You are someone's niece, uncle, someone's mother, someone's father. You are worthy of love in this. And believe it or not, just because someone says I hate you, or everyone hates you, that was another thing that this person like said to my client. Not only did she hate her, but everyone hates her. And whether you believe it or not, there is somebody who loves you for who you are. You know, and that first person, I'm telling you, if the person that says everyone hates you, do they know everyone? We can just cut that down really quick. You know, we can make a liar out of them very quick. Do they know everyone? Of course not. No one knows everyone on the planet but God. Okay? And everyone, you know, we have different traits, and there's something about someone likes on the planet, you know. So if that person doesn't like you and they're saying that everyone doesn't like you, the best way to prove them wrong is to get away from them. Just get away from them and know who you are yourself, and you can radiate love so that other people can see how good of a person you are, and you're going to attract those right people. You're going to attract those people who believe you are worthy of being loved. And when you find those people, you're not even going to remember the situation that you just went through. Prime example of me going through this experience, you know, that my channel is dealing with, you know, the pageant, a lot of stuff with pageantry and things like that. You know, I was told that I was too ugly to even compete. Not only that, you know, my walk wasn't straight, you know, I had to lose so much weight, you know, and at the time I was a size 5'4". I never had the right shape. I'm not the right shade to go. You know, they like, you know, yeah, they'll barely, you know, pick out black girls, but you know, either you have to be super light or super dark, you know, and I'm that in between color. So, you know, that doesn't make me look very exotic. So chances are I wouldn't get it, you know. My hair's not long enough. It's not short enough. My hair goes to my shoulders. It's not long enough. You know, it should be long. It should be this. You know, there were so many distractions that people were saying, you know, I'm not good enough. But if I would have let that stop me, I would have never got the opportunity to go on stage and actually win, you know? And having that feeling of winning was nothing. It was like nothing like it. It was nothing compared to it for me, because it was like my hard work paid off. And no matter, now I know for myself that the things that some of those people were saying were false. You know, I had it, what I had inside of me and what I felt I had inside of me, because how you feel bad. See, if you didn't believe, this is how you know you didn't believe it. If you believed it and you accept it, you would have been like, okay, well, I'm unlovable, and that's okay. You know, you would say that's okay. But when you feel bad, don't think that's really a bad thing. It's just contrary. It's something that's showing you that you feel contrary to what you've been told, you know, and that's not a bad thing. That's just a wake up call to say, okay, well, maybe I should change my surroundings, you know. So that's one of the things that you should do. Change your surroundings. Not only that, when you change your surroundings, don't go back into that space where this person is making that toxic environment for you. You don't have to be there, you know. Sometimes we think of it as, you know, well, this is the only means for me to live and survive. Now, if you're a child, yes, sometimes it's very difficult, and I'm not gonna say that it's an easy route, whether it's an adult or a child, because it's a very difficult process. And like I said, with kids, it's kind of hard, because I know a lot about the system. I know when kids relocate from their homes into foster homes, thinking that they're having a better life, sometimes it's not. For the most part, it's not. I'm gonna say for the most part, it's not. You know, we have a lot of people who portray themselves as one thing and say that they're not. You know, so I know that and I understand that. However, if you are an adult, you can make rational decisions, and you have more of a leeway to, as far as gaining more of control over your life, being of 18 years of older. I know sometimes it's tough, because sometimes you're in relationships with people who control most of the finances and things like that, but you still have an opportunity to make an effort to change that situation, which leads me to the next point. Another thing is, when you get away, if you can't get away immediately, make a plan. Make a plan as to how long you think you can tolerate this. How long do you think it would take for you to get out of the situation safely? If you have any children, how would this affect them, and how can you make that transition with them as smooth as possible without disturbing their emotional state? Because when you have other people depending on you, that's a whole nother ball game. You can deal with yourself and sometimes the stress. Sometimes we can deal with the stress, but it's another way when you have the responsibility of caring for a dependent or someone who is relying on you to help with their emotional development. So, what can you do to make that transition as smooth as possible? With me and dealing with my personal situation, dealing with emotional manipulation and abuse, I didn't have any dependents. I did have my dog and my cat, which my cat just disappeared. It was sad, but I did make efforts to make sure that was okay. And if you guys don't see my dog, she went on a doggy sleepover. So yeah, she went with her friend dogs, and they have a sleepover. So they're in Colorado for a whole week. So yeah, and I'm bad myself, so that's all good. So yeah, make sure that you make that transition smooth as possible. The third thing I would say is find a support system. With my client, her support system is the organization that I work for. She really doesn't have too many support brackets, which we're also helping her find other support groups and things like that she feels comfortable with and that she can slowly branch off into. But find a support system. It might not be going into an organization. It might be that one friend that lives out of town that you can voice your opinion to and talk to. It might be someone from another circle group that you have, and you can talk to them, and it's a safe space, and they understand and they're listening to you. Or it could be a total perfect stranger. We have a lot of non-for-profits in our country that help people, both men, women, and children, especially during this pandemic, to help with the emotional stress that goes on in day-to-day activities, especially if you're dealing with something that's an emergency, dealing with emotional abuse or physical abuse or mental abuse, something like that. So we have a lot of hotlines and things like that. Sometimes you might need to vent off and let someone else know about that. Get the police involved. Sometimes you need to get the police involved, and it doesn't mean that you have to wait. Most people, when they think about the police being involved, they think about the people who are at the crisis moment, are at the point of no return, as I would say, part of the relationship, whereas the relationship has gotten so abusive that it turns to physical violence. I'm going to stop right there. Now, if anyone is being abused physically, even emotionally, but definitely physically, you need to get out of that relationship. I don't give a care who it is. Abuse, that is not accepted, and it's not acceptable. So find help for that, and get out of there as soon as possible. But I'm not talking about that one. Yes, it should happen if it gets to that point, but just kindly, if, say for instance, you're suspecting things are happening and you can't put your finger on it, you want to go and make, and something is happening and you want to document it, you want to make the police aware of certain things that are going on. So then you can have something solid. So when it comes out, or something goes big, and they'll have documentation to go improve it. I literally had to do this with someone I was with, to the point where they were trying to. I couldn't understand how my food. Every time I would eat something, I would be so tired. And I was just thinking that someone put something in my food. Like I just. And then when I didn't eat, he was very pressuring, trying to get me to eat. And I was like, what? And then I would try to lose weight, but then they would try to push off and try to make me eat something that was contrary to losing weight, try to sabotage me and things like that. So what I did was started making notations, and I noticed that I was getting tired, and I went to the police and told them about, okay, I think this is it. And then they were like, the next time this happens, do this, do that. And I did that. A lot of things didn't showed up with it. But eventually when things got really, really tough, or really got to that point where, it was a conflict of, us having a conflict, to it almost got very verbal and things like that. And I felt like I was being abused. They had documentation to pull it out or to bring it out and to see it, which that one led to really, really crazy. It ended up, well, I'll tell you the story. I was with this person, and I just really thought, I kept getting tired. Like I said, he would try to make me eat certain things when I was fasting and I was running for this competition and doing things. It wasn't just a pageant. I think it was when I was doing a marathon. And so I'm like, and it was potatoes. It was always potatoes. And I'm like, I didn't want to eat potatoes, but I would see this clear, like it would be like this shiny purple blue kind of film on the potatoes. And it didn't taste like anything, but it was just like, it was weird. And I was like, for one, I don't eat a lot of potatoes during that time, because I know that like stuffs me up. But I was feeling more lethargic than usual. So one day I looked underneath the sink that we lived in. We had this island. I still got an island now, but we had this island, and I looked underneath the sink and I saw this antifreeze. And I had already told the police about it before, because I was like, something is not going on, not going right. And I mean, I couldn't function. When I say my whole body was shut down, it was like my limbs were numb. When I say numb, I mean numb, like I couldn't move them, like they would just fall off like that. So I just stopped eating. I was just like, I'm not going to eat this. And, I would get pressured, like, why aren't you eating this? I made this. And it's like, no, I didn't want this. I'm not going to eat it. I keep telling you, why are you making potatoes every day? I'm not trying to. So I went there and then found out it was antifreeze in those things. Had I not did that, it would have just looked like I was going nuts, and it looked like I probably did that myself, but since they had that documentation, they were able to do and go to the next step. So make sure you have documentation. This can also help when you are dealing with a toxic person at the workplace. It doesn't always have to be something very, very drastic. Another issue that I had was with a person that was a coworker, but she always started a lot of drama. She would always misquote things and start a lot of commotion. So I noticed that. And when we did have discussions, she would have discussions with me instead of how normal people, well, I won't say normal people, well, the usual dialogue, if you say, hey, can you do this for me? You would just say it. She would put it in a notation, and she would try to add, say something, and I would do it. I would go and do it, and she would try to change it to something different. So when she started doing that, I started I started to carbon copy what she would say to someone else, just to have my bases covered. If we would have a conversation with each other, I would try to have a conversation with her, not just one-on-one, just have someone else next to me or someone in the vicinity to hear the conversation, so that when she does turn it on you, or if she does, because it doesn't necessarily mean that she will, but in this case, she did, that someone else who was non-biased, who heard the conversation as well, could vouch and tell what happened, and go it that way. I also let the person, one of my superiors ahead of me, know what the situation was. So that's another tactic that you can use with that, so that you won't lose who you are and what you are. Another form of that, when people try to train and then turn you around as if you're like looking like you're crazy, it's just basically gaslighting. That's it. And you can lose yourself if you don't do those practices. Let's see. I'm going to give you one more illustration of that. Another illustration of that, I'm sorry, is I was dating with the same individual. I lived like 25 minutes away from my hometown, and we were together. We had like 6 cars in the garage. So, and I cannot drive a stick to save my life, okay? I've been trying to drive it. I mean, I can drive it down the road, but like on the highway, no. And it takes 25 minutes to get to my hometown on the highway. You have to take the highway. There's no other way to get to my hometown. So I was going to my cousin's baby shower. I had already had it planned a month in advance. Actually, he was supposed to go with me. It was on a Saturday. He was off. And 25 minutes, everything was fine. We got the gift and everything. 25 minutes before it was time for me to go, he said that he will be back and he would come, he would come back, and I was like, I need to leave in like 25 minutes because, I need to leave now. He's like, oh, Joe, just stay right here. I'll be fine. So, and he told me if I needed to go, just go. So I'm like, okay, he's making an excuse to go. So I'm like, whatever. So he leaves. Now we have 2 sets of car keys for every car. One is like in the house, and the other ones are in the garage. So as it's like 25 minutes passed, I wasn't waiting on anything. I went to look for the keys. I couldn't find my set of keys or the extra spare keys. Not only that, I couldn't find any of the other keys. So as I'm leaving, as I'm trying to leave, I can't leave. Like, there's no way I can leave. So I was like, oh my goodness. I finally had to call him. He wasn't answering anything. I ended up missing the baby shower. I did still go that same day, but I missed the baby shower. And he was like, well, the keys were right here. And he literally, oh yeah, before that, I taped the keys down because I had this scenario happen to me before. So I taped the keys down. So he was like, you taped the keys down and they were right here on the counter on the island. So I'm like, no, it wasn't. So as I turned back around, I noticed that the keys are back there and it's taped, but it's taped like the key was facing the pointy part where you insert the keys. It was facing up. It was facing down this way. So I knew I wasn't going nuts. And like I said, I had tore that place up and I'm like, why? Where was the spare key? I looked for the spare key. None of the keys were in the garage in the key box, So he was just like, yes, it was. You must have been going crazy, So that's the gaslighting, but you want to have your bases covered. So, and the next, I'll tell you in another video how I ended up pointing that out and how to deal with that as well. But that's kind of what gaslighting is. So you have to cover your bases, like I said, for people who do that. And most of all, don't lose who you are. So, yeah, you are correct. You are entitled to be loved. You are worthy of being treated correctly. Okay, you are worthy of treated correctly. And just because someone's viewpoint is not the best one for you, it doesn't mean you have to accept it either. You don't have to accept it. If someone says that they hate you, okay. Well, if you hate me, thank you so much. Just turn this other directions you can turn in. You don't like my point of view. You can turn somewhere else. You can go somewhere else. And matter of fact, you don't even have to go somewhere else. I'll go somewhere else and find out what's best for me. So then you won't have to be around something that you hate. There should be no reason that you're around someone who really hates you. That's just torture to yourself. Just walk away. Just walk away. Sometimes you can't do that because of other situations, but walk away emotionally. Sometimes you be there, but not there, and don't give anyone your energy like that. Don't give anyone your energy like that. I'm definitely going to post a little bit more about this situation. Once again, if you haven't seen emotional manipulation on my page, definitely look at it. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully something I said and done will help you on your journey. And thank you so much. Please tune in to Journey to Jerusalem. Once again, if you guys, we are having a project called Hugs and Kisses. It is making facial masks for those who are um, on the street, who are really on the front lines, who people overlook and sometimes put out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. So yeah, if you guys like to support or donate, definitely look, go on the link above or go on Facebook at Hugs and Kisses. Um, yeah, thank you so much. Hopefully, something I said or done will help you on your journey. Please stay tuned to Journey to Jerusalem, and thank you so much. Thank you.